Good morning, friends. Shu here. So I wanted to quickly hop on here and just explain a few things. Um, and if you hear noise in the background, I am packing in the I'm packing in the midst of all of this. So my family been away, and we enjoyed time at the beach in New Jersey, and now we are leaving in a few hours. Actually, less than 3 hours from now. So I am here packing stuff. But I wanted to hop on here because if you follow me on this page, you probably have seen all our posts about reinvent yourself, reinvent yourself, reinvent yourself. And you might be wondering, okay, what in the world is this reinvent yourself? What's all the fuss about? What exactly is it? We're posting all these things, quotes about it and the hashtag, but you know, maybe we haven't explained yet what it is. So even before I explain what it is, I wanted to just explain why you should consider it. So when you reinvent yourself, you are, the times that you might want to consider reinventing yourself is when you're feeling stuck. If you're stuck in the current situation, and this doesn't have to be always people think about stuck just like in career, like in your professional life, but think about life in general, right? If you are today where you do not want to be, if there's something that you are not satisfied with right now in your current situation, could be at home, at work, in the community, in your dreams, in your passions, whatever it is that you call life. And if there's part of it that are not the way that you want them to be, the way that you wish it would have been, then it might be time to reinvent yourself. So we reinvent ourselves when we're stuck. We reinvent ourselves when we're bored. We can also reinvent ourselves when life throws some punches at us, right? And just thinking about my own life, I had to reinvent myself. The first time I think was at the age of 5, when I fell off the seesaw and I had to have my tongue sewed up together. And for that time, I couldn't eat regular food. I had to eat soft food. So that health crisis, if you want, even at the age of 5, I had to reinvent, myself and how I ate. And it was scary just thinking, okay, and it was not easy either to communicate because you have to move your tongue to talk, right? and that was an issue. So then I had to reinvent myself again when I first came to the US at the age of 10, when, my family moved up here, and I had to learn a new culture, learn new values even as I grew up, right? And again, I had to reinvent myself. I'm trying to think, maybe the age of 15 or 16 again, no, actually, before being 15, when at 12, I went back to, Congo, where I'm originally from. And I had to, so I spoke French back then, and that's the official language of Congo, where I'm from, originally from. But there is a common language called Lingala, and you think because I was born in that country that I knew how to speak that language. Well, I didn't, because I was raised with my dad, and I was I was with my dad and my stepmom, and my stepmom is originally from here, from the U.S. That's how my family ended up in the U.S. So we spoke French and English at home, right? We didn't really speak Lingala, although people around me spoke Lingala. So when I went back home, back to the Congo in, I think at the age of 12, I had to reinvent myself because some of the things that I've learned from my first, 10 years, if you want, of life, were not always what I was seeing there. And I had to learn over there too, learn the language, although I was originally born there. And then the culture that I've acquired by being raised by an American mother and been in the US, I had to kind of, rethink that, because the way I saw things, the way I did things were not the way people were doing it there. And I remember being so frustrated with kids my age. I'm like, geez, they act like babies. Because again, I felt more mature than they were, but it was just a cultural thing. So I had to reinvent myself then. And then at the age of 17, when, for those who don't know, I was raped when I was 17, and I had to reinvent myself all over again. It's like, wow, who am I? Like, how do people just take advantage of me? How do I raise up from this? How do I move on, right? Because I blamed myself and I didn't get the support that I needed. And it was just a whole mess. But I had to reinvent myself back then and find a definition of who I was and how I was moving forward in life after that really, yeah, awful situation that happened. And then I moved back to the US at the age of 20. And I had to reinvent myself again. Here I'm an adult in a new country with now, my dad was here and my relatives, but I didn't have the extended family that I had in Africa. So I had to reinvent myself again, build a new support system and find, have people around me that support me, that, help me go move forward. Yes, reinvent myself, right? And then after that, like, that wasn't enough, right? Then I have my first daughter, my first child, and here I'm a mom. At that time, my now ex-husband was, overseas, so I'm here raising the kid on my own, like, again with not much support. And I'm a first-time mom with my own mom wasn't here to help me with some of the mom stuff that I needed to learn. I need to reinvent myself. How do I go from this young girl who's a survivor, and this young girl who is trying to make new life in this new country, to now being a mom to a mom, which I didn't even know how to do, right? I had to reinvent myself. And then fast forward a few years later, I had three kids now, and my youngest was born with, a lot of health issues, and we're in and out the hospital. And it became, I even used to take him to work with me. Like, I remember the one time, like, this is so vivid in my mind. He was going through a 24-hour EEG thing. So like he had wires all over his head, and I had to work. So I took him to the hospital. They did put all the wires on. I put him back in his car seat. He was so little then, and drove back to work and still worked a few hours with a kid with wires all over the head. And people were like, oh my goodness, what'd you do that for? I'm like, well, there's nothing in that moment I could have done for him. What if I took him home or I stayed with him at the office and got him to get work done? You know, the wires will still be there. We won't have any results in that moment, right? So through all of that experience, not only I learned to reinvent myself to keep moving when life throws punches at me, when life gives me lemon, but with every situation that came in my life, I literally reinvent myself to a better version of myself. Through that experience, I learned to be a great advocate. All the work that I do in the special needs or disability field is 100% from the experience that I've been through, from being there for my own kids and advocating for them. That's what helped me to do with stuff that I do today. So I reinvented myself. And then when it became too hard, my son, I couldn't be in daycare. It was just medically too fragile, and I had to stay home. I reinvented myself because when I decided to stay home with him, right, so in the beginning, we're trying to make it work, find answers, and I brought him to work with me. And then it was clear that I needed to be home with him. So I quit my job, stayed home with my child, well, my children. He's the youngest one that needed me the most at that time with his health. And I had to reinvent myself. Like, I still had all these things I was passionate about. I love what I did, but then how do I make it work when I'm staying home? Hey, that's how Grace and Hope Consulting was born, right? I had to reinvent myself when, it seems like all the doors were shutting off on me because it just wasn't practical for my family, for me to go do all the things that I did before. I had to reinvent myself and find a way to, to use my skills and my gift and, and put my talents to good use while still being, being at home with my kids and prioritizing, family, and because that's very important to me, right? And then just, for those who follow me, like a year ago, I had my own health setback, when the stroke happened and I was at the hospital, for almost a month. I had to learn how to, speak, how to learn how to walk all over again. I had to reinvent myself. This year could have been like, the least productive year of my life. And rightfully so, right? People told me, well, you can just sit and do nothing and that will be okay. And then I told myself, well, that's just not me, right? So I couldn't drive. So I had to let go of all the contracts that I had, right? I ended up closing my office, the Grace and Hope Consulting office that was in Harrisburg. We closed that down. And I literally had to reinvent myself again in how I do life, how I support myself, even how I support my kids. And then also how I run my business and my ministry, how I do life in general. So this year, you think it have been like, oh, well, probably the less, the least productive year, but it actually been the most productive year. I'm just, just thinking like, although I couldn't drive, I was able to go. Oh my goodness, let me say, like, I think give all this. So I went to State College twice for work, training and conferences. Um, I went to Pittsburgh once to do a training there as well. I went to Bedford once to do a training there. I did one conference and one training in Harrisburg. I uh, I went to Florida for two conferences. And then in the midst of all of that, I wrote two books on my own and then co-authored two other books. This would have been the year that I was supposed to just sit home and do nothing, right? Because I couldn't drive, because I couldn't have my office, because I lost my contract. Even in the midst of all of that, I was able to see some clients online and do some online counseling programs and coaching programs. Yes, that's what happens when you reinvent yourself. I reinvent myself over and over again. And I just share this to give you some ideas of when you might need to consider reinventing yourself. Right? Sometimes it's after a job loss. Sometimes it's after a divorce or separation. Sometimes it's after it's after a health setback or relocation or something that happens to your family. Like for me, my kids needed me. They're ill and needed me to be there. Or maybe you've been, living in your past. Maybe you're stuck in your past and you're like, this is not the, I'm not moving forward. I'm not living the life that I want to live. Yes, then you might want to consider reinventing yourself. So what does it look like when you reinvent yourself? It's actually that the benefit of it is not only you face your fears, and you do something that just for you and that helps you be the best version of yourself, but you're leaving a legacy as well. For me, each time I reinvented myself, and it's just like, get out of this cocoon and leave that old shell, then I get into a new session, season of life. And through that new season, I learn new things. I learn new things. I do new things. I serve in a different way. Into the next season, come again, right? So that I know I just shared how I reinvented myself. So if you're considering reinventing yourself, like you think it is the time to reinvent yourself, and we'll be sharing more on that as we go forward. Like why more details of why you need to know when you should consider reinventing yourself. What are the benefits of it? How can you reinvent yourself to make your emotional wellness a priority? We'll be sharing all of those things throughout the month of January. But I just wanted to help you to give you a little chance to hear my story of reinvention, how I've been reinventing myself. And then stay tuned. With Grace and Hope Consulting is also reinventing itself for 2019. There's some new things coming up, and I want you to be part of it. So we'll be sharing those, as they're made live, if you want. But if you need to reinvent yourself, talk to us. Like if you're at the moment at the time in the life where you're like something has to change, something has to give, we're here to support you. We do have there's gonna be a workshop, an online workshop on how to reinvent yourself. One, you should consider that, and how, different tools and strategies to do so. And then there's also a workbook. So actually, people who sign up for the workshops get the workbook for free. So you don't want to miss that. We'll be posting the date. That will be happening in January, like in a couple of weeks here. We'll be posting the date as soon as it's available. But just wanted to hop on here and kind of give you some, give my story of how I've been reinventing myself and how you can do the same. And if you want to talk more, I guess our next event is on January 3rd. We're doing a vision casting workshop where if you're one of those people who do make resolutions for the new year, and we teach you, I teach you that why resolutions don't work and how you should consider a novel method of setting goals for yourself and actually living it out and accomplishing those goals. So which is again a part of reinvention. So that you're going to see this whole year of 2019. That's going to be our theme throughout all the stuff that we do. Helping people reinvent themselves, after trauma, helping people reinvent themselves after divorce, having people reinvent themselves, after a setback. that's, that's our theme for this year. And actually it's going to be the theme that, goes with Grace of Consulting for a long time, because we want to help you rise above your circumstances, no matter what those circumstances are. And when the way to rise above your circumstances is to reinvent yourself each time. It's to reinvent yourself, when you need to. All right. So I hope to see you on January 3rd, so we can start setting some goals for this year for yourself. And we start, that might be give you a chance to start thinking about which areas of your life need reinventing. Right. So, and that's a free event. I'm going to post the link in the comments here as soon as I'm able. But join us. We want to see you there. All right. Take care, friends.